Growing is what I do, it's who I am, and I want to share it with the world. Hi, I'm Tom Morcom, owner and head cultivator at Vermont Grow Coaching, taking the guesswork out of cannabis cultivation. I would love to welcome you to Grow Bites. Join me live every Sunday at 5:55, where we dive into the wonderful world of cannabis, from growing to consuming, processing equipment and new technologies, from the basics to the most advanced techniques. This is my world. Won't you join me? Hey guys, Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching here, and welcome to another episode of Grow Bites. Sorry I missed you guys last week. For those of you that tried to tune in, I do apologize. I was having some health issues and ended up not being able to make it. Unfortunately, I'm still battling a lot of the same issues that I've had with the optic neuritis, to the point of where I'm now experiencing vertigo at times, dizziness, blurred vision, fatigue, etc. And sometimes just falling down, falling on plants, and that's not good, right? But yeah, in any case, so I apologize for not being here last week, but I'm back. I'm feeling okay. Got a little bit of a headache, probably associated with the same sort of stuff, but the show must go on, right? So this week, let's talk first about the episodes we're going to do, or the growers guides we're going to do this week. So we're going to be doing LST, which is low stress training, as well as simple drip irrigation. Some of that may sound familiar to some of you. We did do that a few months ago. However, I brought it back again because there are definitely plenty of new listeners now, and I want to make sure that the newer listeners don't miss some of that older information that they could definitely still go back and watch. But let's be honest, some of us are just too lazy for that, right? So without further ado, let's jump into low stress training. Hey guys, this is Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching, and welcome to Grower's Guide, your weekly beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. A few weeks ago on Grower's Guide, we were discussing topping and pinching. Topping, where you pinch out the top node of the plant and allow the plant to increase top cola production. So LST, or low stress training, is another form of training that's not quite as invasive as topping. Low stress training, or LST, requires that you bend and tie down the branches in order to increase the canopy size. Now, when combined with topping or another form of training, LST can be even more beneficial to your plant, creating a very large canopy and increasing your yield considerably. A few weeks ago, a good friend provided us some seeds of Mr. E Pupil from Mass Medical strains. Mr. E Pupil is a fantastic medicinal strain that's also fairly high in THC and has some amazing flavors. Now, we're working with Mr. E Pupil and doing quite a bit of training with her right now at the moment. We did some topping, and we went ahead and we topped her twice, and now today we're going to go ahead and do some LST, or low stress training. Now, if you remember from last week, we did go ahead and use a lot of green twist ties when we were doing our airline and cloning, and those green twist ties are going to come into play here as well. You can pick it up right at your local grow shop or garden store. They're super easy. Now, as you can see here, we've already gone ahead and tied on our green ties to our buckets by drilling a few holes here and just tying on the green zip ties. Now we're going to go ahead and take the plant, bend the plant in an outward motion. You're going to go ahead and tie the zip tie right around the branch. Now don't tie it too tight because the branch will continue to grow and you don't want to end up suffocating or breaking the branch. After you've finished tying all of the branches with your zip ties, go ahead and allow the plant to have 2 or 3 days recovery time to determine how well you've done your initial training. From there, you're going to be able to add more ties or adjust your initial ties to help create a much larger canopy. We will continue the process of low stress training with this plant until the plant has reached roughly 2 feet in diameter and 2 feet in height. At that point, we'll continue on to our next step of training, but in order to see what that is, you'll have to tune in the next couple of weeks to find out. This has been Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching. I hope you've enjoyed this week's section of Grower's Guide. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at Vermont Grow.
Blah, blah, blah. We're not going to run through that crap right now. It's not time for the end of the show. I tell this guy that every time, and he always comes back with it. Each and every time he does that Growers Guide thing, he's like, hey, we're going to end the. No, we're not ending the show. So shut up, man. All right. So, one of the things I want to talk to you guys about this week is HHC. Anyone know what that is? Hexahydrocannabinol. All right. So, hexahydrocannabinol is another cannabinoid. All right. You got your THC, your CBD, your CBN, your CBG, your Delta 8. Now, let's talk about that for a second. Delta 8, right? So, Delta 8 recently, within the last month or two, has pretty much been made illegal in most states after determining that most Delta 8 is made synthetically and is not actually derived from the hemp plant as people were claiming. It can be derived from the hemp plant, but it's in such a small quantity, you would need exorbitant amounts to actually amount to anything. So, in that respect, the idea that any synthetic cannabinoid created is illegal for use, unfortunately, puts Delta 8 out of the running. That's where HHC or hexahydrocannabinol comes in. So, HHC has a lot of the same effects of THC, the euphoria, the pain relief, even a little bit of the munchies for some people. But to a lesser extent, definitely not the same amount of high that you'd get from THC, for instance. Now, with hexahydrocannabinol, it binds extremely well to both your CB1 and your CB2 receptors, which, for those of you who don't know, that's everything that makes your endocannabinoid system work, right? Like that's how you're able to absorb cannabinoids and make them work properly for your body, right? So the fact that HHC can be absorbed by both your CB1 and CB2 receptors makes it extremely beneficial for medicinal benefit, and then also people who like the euphoria effects from it as well. Now, one of the fantastic things about hexahydrocannabinol is that currently, because it actually is derived from the hemp plant and it's not created synthetically, it's not illegal because it's a cannabinoid derived from the hemp plant, like CBG, like CBD, etc. Now, here's the difference. HHC is actually obtained from the seed and the pollen of the plants. So that's actually even some major benefits for those hemp farmers out there that can only afford regular seed and don't have the ability to pull all the males from their crop. All that seed production, all that pollen that's created from some of those males, instead of disposing of them, they can be used to actually create additional products such as HHC, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's actually my weekly win because HHC is amazing. And if you haven't heard about it, you have now. And I'm happy just being able to tell you about it. So we're going to dive into a quick commercial break and we will be right back. Do, 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 do. All right. So if you weren't paying attention, that was my commercial, wasn't it? I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention. I don't pay attention to the commercials. But anyway, so HHC, right? Fantastic. Hexahydrocannabinol. If you haven't heard about it, go read about it. Go learn about it. You can make it. You can get it from seeds. You can get it from pollen. It's great stuff. All right. Now, I said that that was my weekly win, but I actually had 2 weekly wins this week. So the second weekly win was hearing from a good friend up in Maine that GMB 77 has actually finally made it into medical dispensaries up there. So if you are a medical patient, it doesn't matter if you're a Maine medical patient or a Vermont medical patient or New York or wherever the case may be. Maine is a reciprocating state, so they will accept your medical card as long as it's valid. So go ahead and hop on up there and go on to like Weed Maps and check it out and see if you can find GMB 77 because it's totally on there and you can totally find it. And the little mom and pop shop that's carrying it is a fantastic place. I've been there myself. They've got great prices on concentrates and everything else. So I'm not going to give you their name. I'm going to make you go search them out, but fantastic place to work with. Screw it, I'll do it anyway. It's nature's gifts, right? So Magoo's up in Maine is Magoo's Garden. They are a fantastic medical cultivator up there. And they were lucky enough to obtain some GMB 77 genetics and have now been able to release that to the medical population up in Maine. So I'm extremely excited about that. So if you're a medical patient and you'd like to get your hands on some, you guys know I can't sell it, right? So you got to go up to Maine and get yourself some. All right, so now we are going to jump into another quick commercial break. This is our Deadly Grounds commercial break. Everybody loves Deadly Grounds. It's amazing coffee, and if I had some right now, I'd be talking a lot faster than I am.
Thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
So that's the Deadly Grounds commercial. If you guys are tired of seeing that, too bad, because I'm not. I love seeing that every week. So now we're on to what really irks my nerps, because nobody ever gave me a better name for that. So I'm sticking with irks my nerps. Just tough it. All right. So what really irks my nerps this week? So we've actually got 2 things. You know, I wasn't on here last week, so I might as well throw 2 at you, right? The first one, spider mites. Why? Because they're spider mites. I personally feel that they have no use in our environment. There's plenty of other insects and pests out there, other types of spiders, other types of mites that can easily handle whatever biological necessity or biological happenings that these spider mites might actually play to benefit the ecosystem. Because in my opinion, I hate them. It's not just in the garden. You know, I like to do other things. You know, I like to go hiking with the kids. You know, we play disc golf. You know, we go swimming, and I can just be walking through my own yard. I don't mow my lawn a lot. I don't know if you guys know that. I don't like to mow my lawn. A couple of reasons. Number one, I'm wasting gas and I'm hurting the environment by using the mower. Number two, I've got way too much other crap on my plate and way too much time or way too little time on my hands to be able to even think about, oh, let's just go and spend an afternoon mowing the lawn. And my wife hates that, by the way. But number 3, and this one is my favorite, the fact that I don't mow my lawn very often makes it fantastic for a plethora of different insects and animals to be able to use my property as a sanctuary. So we get tons of different types of bees, lots of honeybees throughout the year and everything. But one of the things I always notice too is spider mites. I can be just walking through the yard and, you know, look down and like, oh, there's a clover. Oh, those telltale yellow spots. And there's the web. Spider mites. But alas, spider mites was my first what really irks my nerves for the week. I don't really feel that they have any use for us here on this planet, and I'd be happy if they all just been eradicated, wouldn't you? So my second what really irks my nerves for this week is actually doctors. Not just any doctors, but doctors that refuse to provide diagnoses specifically because they're afraid of malpractice suits or afraid of being sued. One of the reasons I feel that I'm personally going through as many of the mental issues, excuse me, not mental issues, I guess I am mental too, right? Medical issues as I am right now is specifically because I feel that the doctor has not been willing to properly diagnose me because he isn't seeing what he feels should be seen. So in this case, it would be MS, and the point of the matter is that the optic neurologist had felt that I had it. The regular the MS neurologist was originally concerned about it, but once not finding any lesions on my brain or spine, determined that he wasn't going to diagnose me with that. But I've since then, within the last several months, have several other episodes, had to go in for additional MRIs, and am now actually getting passive aggressive notes from my wife when I wake up in the morning, like little sticky notes on my phone that say, "Did you schedule your September MRI yet?" I don't know if that's passive aggressive, but I feel like it is. um, but so in that respect, I'm going and I'm getting checked out on a regular basis because they want to keep monitoring me to try to provide a diagnosis. But in reality, the only reason they haven't provided me this diagnosis yet is because I don't have lesions on my brain or my spine. But let's talk about that for a second. I consume a lot of cannabis. And when I say a lot, I mean like it's a lot, okay? Every way, shape, or form. I eat it, I smoke it, I vape it. I rub it on my skin. I make smoothies out of it in the morning with my breakfast. I'm not having one of those right now, but I love to even just grab like one of these smoothies from the store. I don't like to do them too often because they got the preservatives and crap, but I'll even grab one of those and just toss it in a blender real quick, throw in some ice and throw in some hemp leaves and make a better smoothie out of it. So, I mean, there's tons of different things that I do with the cannabis plant. And as everyone knows, cannabis is a neuroprotectant. Okay. So in that respect, it's helping protect your nerves, right? So, and it's helping protect your brain. So the thought process, which actually the optic neurologist that I had spoke with down in Boston, one of the top optic neurologists in the country, had agreed on this, was that the cannabis, especially with the amount that I'm consuming, could actually be protecting me from having those lesions. So I still end up with all the other symptoms. I still end up with all the other episodes, the fatigue, the dizziness, the nausea, blurred vision, vertigo, optic neuritis, everything, but just don't have the lesions. So in that respect, the doctor doesn't want to diagnose it because he's afraid that if he does diagnose it, and then that's not what it is later on down the road, that I'm going to sue him. Obviously, you guys know I'm not going to do that. That's not who I am. But he doesn't know that, and he'd like to protect his own butt. So that's my second what really irks my nerves this week. All right, so now we're going to dive into our simple drip irrigation. Drip, 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 right? So simple drip irrigation, really simple to set up. You don't need much to do it, really cheap. And in the end, if you're going to be gone for a couple of days, better not to let your plants run dry and have them be droopy and or dead when you get back. Better to set up a simple drip irrigation system.
Hey, this is Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching, and welcome to Grower's Guide, your weekly beginner-friendly cannabis tips and tricks. This week on Grower's Guide, we're going to be talking to you about irrigation, a super simple, cheap, and easy way to set up an irrigation system. Let's get dripping. Oh, hey guys, is it that time already? You got to give me like 2 minutes. I'm just finishing up some trimming on some traditionally dried and cured GMB 77 for a strain review that's going to be coming out in December. Make sure to look out for it. All right, now that you've watched me catch up on my trim game, it's time to get into irrigation. Today, we've got a super cheap and simple way to set up irrigation. I don't care if it's whether you're going away for a few days or you're disabled and it's hard for you to bend over to water your plants every day, or maybe even if you're just lazy. It's okay, be honest. Regardless, this is again a cheap and simple way to get set up to self-water your plants. First, we're going to need a small pump. This pump is a 49-watt pump. This is more than adequate to be able to water probably up to about 10 to 15 5 to 10 gallon pots. It will take a little bit longer during that pump process the more plants that you need to water, but in this situation we're just going to show you how to hook this up to one individual plant here. So we've got our pump and we've got a headset on it for our 3/4 inch irrigation tubing. We're going to start by taking this 3/4 inch irrigation tubing that we've already cut relatively short. It is longer than the 5 gallon bucket that we've got here, but not by much. So we go ahead and we put that on here. We're gonna measure this right up against the 5-gallon bucket. Now you notice we're using a 5-gallon bucket that is food grade safe. This is very important when working with this method because using any other sort of plastics could potentially leak toxic chemicals into your plants, which can cause issues for both your plants as well as yourself. Now we've taken this bucket, we've gone ahead and we've put a small hole in the lid. That's gonna be for our irrigation tubing. So we go ahead and we wanna make sure that the top of the hose is roughly about 2 inches above where the top of the bucket would be. Now, this is only if you're going to be doing a simple setup like we are today. There's numerous different ways that you can do this, so please don't hold this as a tried and true only option for you to use. There are plenty of different methods for you to do this. So we go ahead and we clip that off there. We've got some nice little snippers here, but you can go ahead and use scissors or a saw if you absolutely need to as well. We're gonna go ahead and open our bucket. We're gonna drop our pump right in the bottom. Make sure you have a pump with suction cups that has a bottom feed if possible. That's going to ensure that it's pulling directly from the bottom so that you get all of the water out of the bucket before having to re-up. So we're gonna go ahead and feed both the hose as well as the power cord through the same hole. There is a power cord. You are going to need to plug this into a wall. So if you're working outdoors, make sure you find some way to operate power and choose a pump that is outdoor rated as well. Once we have this set up in here, we're going to go ahead and add a 3/4 inch tee. This tee gets added right to the end of the pipe. And then we're going to take another section of 3/4 inch tubing and we're going to attach it to the other end of the tee. Now, when we do that, we're going to make this about the same size as the top of the 5-gallon pail without actually kinking the hose in any way. If you kink the hose, you're going to run into issues with water not traveling as fast through the system. And if you have more than one tube set up or more than one watering site set up, you're going to run into issues with one site being watered faster than another. So we go ahead and we just cram these ends on there. They are nice and tight. They need to be nice and snug like this. This is what prevents you from having to use any sort of adhesive when getting these to mount together. I've never had to worry about using any sort of adhesive with this process as long as you use the right size tee with your hosing. All right, so now that we've got that in there, we're gonna go ahead and take a drill with a 1/8 inch bit. You can pick up specific hole punches that are designed for 1/4 inch tubing, but in our situation, I find that using a 1/8 drill bit is perfectly acceptable as long as you're careful and don't go all the way through the hose or your hand. All right, so after we've drilled our hole, we've got these little 1/4 inch adapter pieces. One end is going to get jammed right through that same hole that you just created with your 1/8 bit. Again, keep in mind, this is going to be difficult to press through the hole. You are going to use quite a bit of force in order to get it through, but it will go through. And once it does, it's going to help keep a solid seal so that you don't have to worry about any sort of adhesives. All right, so now that that's in, we're going to take a piece of 1/4 inch irrigation tubing and we're going to attach that to the other side of the adapter that we just put into the 3/4 inch line here. Again, this is going to be just as difficult to get on here. If you need to, you can lubricate the inside of it a little bit. I would suggest some distilled water or reverse osmosis and not using your saliva just because of the additional bacteria that you could be introducing to the system. All right, so we got that on there. Now we're going to go ahead and grab a 1/4 inch tee. This tee is going to go directly into the same 1/4 inch line that we just put into the adapter. And then we're going to take one of these bad boys. This is irrigation tubing, 1/4 inch in diameter, that has drip line and drip holes every 6 inches. So this is fantastic for watering small plants. We've got one here that's roughly about 8 inches. When we double it over, it's got about a 4.5 inch radius on it. And we're gonna go ahead and attach that one end directly to the tee. And the other end is gonna wrap around the plant and connect to the other side of the tee. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and add your drip line directly to your pot. Once your drip line is in your pot, go ahead and fill up your bucket. We're going to adjust this one a little bit before we use it here. Go ahead and fill up your bucket and give it a test. Once you've tested your system and ensured that it works properly, pick up a cheap timer that allows you to adjust the time by the second, not the minute, not the half hour, not the 15-minute, has to be by the second. That way you can individually adjust the timer to properly set up the water irrigation for your plants. So let's give it a look.
Drip, 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 drip. Additional tips. Don't use compost teas or other sediment-heavy waters with this system. The drip lines, unfortunately, will get clogged. They're perfectly okay, however, for water-soluble nutrients in teas. Use a small air pump and an air stone in the water to help prevent the water going stagnant and to keep it oxygenated. Adjust waterings throughout the grow cycle. Check regularly for leaks. You don't want a wet floor. And make sure you sterilize your system on a regular basis. Time for a little fun. Ready for some bloopers?
We're going to take one of these 1/4-inch lines that we discussed before. We didn't discuss these before. It's time to get into a little bit of irrigation. This irrigation system is super chimp.
Thanks for tuning into Grower's Guide. You should now have a general idea how to... I just love it when I do things super chimp, don't you? Yeah, so anyway, next week is going to be a great week. The video we're bringing on next week is actually going to be on ethanol extraction, in particular with a rotovap. I've got some wonderful extraction equipment that I'm ready to play with, as well as some testing equipment, which includes rotovaps, short path distillation setups, gas chromatography, etc. So stay tuned for that in the coming week, but next week we'll definitely be diving into rotovap ethanol extraction. So put down that source turbo, put down that double boiler, and pick up a rotovap. This has been Tom with Vermont Grow Coaching. Thank you guys for tuning into Grow Bites. As I've mentioned before, I don't spend any time on Facebook or Instagram anymore. I haven't been on in months. So if you need to reach me, please reach out to 802-342-5381 or reach out to service@vermontgrowcoach.com. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next week.